GM, welcome to the weekly roll-up, where we run down all the top Web3 news to make sure you're ahead of the crowd and up to date on everything you need to know. My name is Jay Bird, and this is Kyle Reedhead. And our goal here at Web3 Academy is to help entrepreneurs, businesses, and creators explore and learn how to use Web3 to build thriving communities and sustainable business models.
In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the macro trends in Web3, and I'm not talking about investment. I am talking about business model macro trends. Where's the space going? We're talking about Apple allowing NFTs in their apps and in their app store. This is massive potentially. There's a lot of back and forth here. Coinbase makes a big transition with their NFT marketplace. We actually haven't talked about that one in a long time. And then we're going to dive into a bunch of our quick hit 60-second news stories to get you up to date. We're going to drop our Web3 tool of the month, which was chosen by our community this week. And then we're going to discuss some answers from our community from a poll that we ran last week and throw down another poll for you guys too. So stick around. This is going to be a banger of an episode. But first of all, let's start with what we always do, and that is gratitude, because we want to stay mindful and grateful. So Jay, what's your gratitude today?
My gratitude today, before I say my gratitude today, one little nugget for you. Did you know that in psychology research, practicing gratitude is strongly associated with greater happiness?
Ooh, I like to be happy.
That's why we do this. Today, I'm grateful for Kyle Reedhead. I'm grateful for my co-host, my brother, my co-founder. Little story for you here. So just over 3 years ago, Kyle and I have been friends for about a decade, but just over 3 years ago, we were both in Bali at the same time, and we came up with this idea to create a business together and started a marketing agency together. And as any entrepreneur out there knows, when you start a business, you go through the trenches. And Kyle and I have been through a lot, and it's just been an incredible journey of creating a business, creating now a media company and a second business as we've launched into Web3. Kai was the first one that told me to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. Kai, I'm not sure I'm so grateful for that, actually. I think I bought the top.
Yeah, you bought the top and everything.
But I am grateful for Kyle. And let me tell you, I'm grateful for Kyle because we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for him. He is the consummate leader of our business, the visionary, and this guy's work ethic is insane. It's almost annoying sometimes how much he works because he gets so much done, and I battle to keep up with him. So I'm mostly grateful that in the past few weeks, Kyle finally decided to take some time off work. And it was great. It was great for me. It was great for him. And I'm grateful because he attended and Kai, you might tell us about it, but he attended a retreat about leadership and mindfulness. And he told me that last week we were on a call, and you told me, Kai, that at this retreat, every 15 minutes, a noise goes off, like a bell or a gong, I guess. And no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, you take a deep breath, a single deep breath. And I'm grateful that you shared that with me because I've been trying to practice that. And I'm grateful that you did it because it seems to have given you an exhale that you needed. And so thanks for being you, man. I love you. And I'm so grateful for everything that you do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that so much. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, very much appreciated. I actually am sorry sometimes that I push you and the team so hard, but
it's good.
It's what you got to do, right? It's the way we get to where we are. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And yes, this retreat, I'm not going to dive into it, but practice breathing, because it definitely it slows things down and helps you become a better leader, helps you make better decisions.
Did you know that? And I'll let you do your gratitude, Kai. But did you know that in Sanskrit, the word nirvana literally translates to exhale. It actually literally translates to blow out, but essentially exhale is their view on what nirvana is. So
interesting.
Incredible.
That I did not know.
Go ahead, Kai. What are you grateful for today?
Yeah, so my gratitude this week is a bit special. So a little personal as well, but 19 years ago to the day of, I believe it was Monday, the 26th, I lost my sister. She was 16 years old. I was 13 years old in a car accident. And obviously, I was super young, so was she. A tough situation for my family. But what came out of it that was amazing was friends, family from all over London, Ontario, which is where I'm from, really came together and supported my family and myself for many, many years after. And one of the things that has remained consistent in over the 19 years is on September 26th, every year, I get a message from, like, I don't know, 50 to 100 friends from high school, people that I don't talk to from all year, from family, from etc., all just sharing love, sending me a purple heart because purple was my sister's favorite color. And every year, my Instagram DMs, my WhatsApp, whatever, they're just filled with like all of these people that I haven't talked to in so long, and they always make that that gesture to make sure they say they're thinking of me, they're thinking of my family, so grateful for that support that I had, both like when I was young and this all happened, but just continuing today. It just really lights up my day. And it turns such a difficult day into like a day that I actually look forward to because I get to rekindle relationships and connections with so many different people. So grateful for all my friends, all my family back home. Absolutely love you guys. And even new friends, like new people I meet along the way, along my journeys, they get in on it too because they see it on Instagram and that. So yeah, so much gratitude to just my friends and family. It's a big one.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Kai. It's very vulnerable of you to share that. And on that note, if you're wondering why purple is the main color of Web3 Academy, that is why. It is in memory of Krista. So yeah. Okay, absolutely. Before we jump into today's episode, we got to take a second to hear from our first sponsor.
Ooh, we got a sponsor. We won't even say who it is. Let's get to it first. The future of social media is here, and that future lives in Web3 on top of Lens protocol. Web2 social platforms are broken and ripe for disruption. You see, the epicenter of social media is the creators, and yet they are the most neglected. Web2 platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram are all essentially robbing creators of their worth. Creators are a new type of entrepreneur, forming new types of businesses. Yet with Web2 platforms, creators don't own their content or their profiles, and that's their product and business. Instead, they are tied to the platforms they choose to create on. Well, just like how crypto is freeing us from banks, Web3 is freeing us from these centralized platforms. On Lens protocol, creators own their content, own their profile, and even their social graph and followers in the form of NFTs. This allows you to move freely from one social application to another with your content, profile, and followers moving along with you. Lens protocol enables self-sovereignty for your social graph and interoperability across the internet. At Web3 Academy, we believe this is the future of social, and that's why we partner with Lens to ensure that the path of social media is heading in the right direction. Visit lens.xyz to learn more today. All right, welcome back. We are going to start today's episode with the macro trends of Web3. And again, this is not investment. This is not macro investment advice. We are talking about the macro of the business of Web3 and the business models and just the things happening and innovating in this space. The first one we have up, I'm just going to read a tweet first before I get into this trend, because this was actually one of the tweets that clued me into this and really made this apparent to me. But Christina, which actually is from Lens, who is our sponsor that you just heard about, but Christina says, did you know if you have a Shopify store, there's already a feature where you can already gate the site and certain items based on your Lens protocol social graph. So just by having an account or following certain people, you can gate things on Shopify that they can buy. And we've heard about that with DAOs and tokens and things. But I think what's really interesting about this, and I think the trend that's coming here, is most people are thinking about NFTs as these sort of speculative assets, these like art and these images that all are going to accrue this like insane value. And the whole goal is to, have this ape worth $100,000. And I don't think that is the key unlock of NFTs. I actually don't think that is where most NFTs are going to go. I think that NFTs are less about the speculative assets and more about the interoperability. To me, that is the true feature. NFTs are digital ownership of fungible things But what that enables, other than the ability for it to be an asset that goes up and down, but like we already have that in the Web2 world, so it's not that big of a deal. It's this interoperability standard that is so important here, where something like what Christina's talking about is your Lens handle, which you can think of that as like your Instagram account, right? Or maybe you follow someone on Instagram. Those are all NFTs on Lens, as you just heard about in a sponsor. And so you can now use that as a interoperability standard, essentially. Okay, so that NFT you can now use in any other application in Web3, and you can do token gated access. You can show certain content. You can do anything based off of that tool, right? And so I want everyone to think of an NFT more as a tool than as some image or as some video or whatever, some piece of art that has the speculative value, because all of these, well, actually, let me get in this first. So I think the main use case of NFTs is not these communities and speculative assets and all this stuff. It is this ability to move from app to app, and for these apps to just auto see the NFT that's in there, which is just a piece of data, which then can trigger something, some sort of experience, some sort of access, whatever that may be. And Lens Protocol is the perfect example of this. And I have a few actually that we'll break down here. But Lens uses NFTs for your account, for the people that you follow, and for your content. But none of those NFTs are going to accrue value. Okay, maybe if you're like a celebrity and you're like, I don't know, your Lens Protocol handle is like Jay-Z or something, like maybe that does. Okay, but for the most part, like when I follow you, Jay, on Lens, there is an NFT that is formed there that proves and verifies that I follow you. Okay, that's never going to be worth anything. It's worth zero. Okay, because anyone can follow you. There's no scarcity there. But what that NFT does is it acts as sort of like an NFT, or sorry, an interoperability standard for me to go into any other app and prove that I follow you, and thus open access on things like Shopify, etc. Right? So that, I think, is actually where the millions and billions probably of NFTs will be used. I don't think it's going to be in these sort of speculative assets like we've seen over 2021. I think it's more of these like underlining parts of the internet that just enables better experiences and things to happen based off of what interactions people take on the internet. What's interesting is, like, as marketers, we use ActiveCampaign for this sort of thing. So what you can do with like email CRMs is you can like tag people based off of what they do, and what actions they take on your website or things they buy, whatever. And then you can show certain content. But it's not actually interoperable because it only works in like the one browser they used with that one email. If I go to a new browser, I use a different email, none of that actually kind of works and carries through. Whereas with this NFT, it auto verifies it all. It's open and transparent. Anyone can see it and pull it. So it's much, much easier. So that's really cool. Other areas that this works is like identity and credentials, right? So like if I complete a course, I may get a soulbound NFT. So an NFT that is non-transferable, which means it will have zero value. It's not worth anything to anyone, but it is worth something to me because that credential might be a thing that gets me a job, or allows me to go to an event, or allows me to be a part of a community or something, because maybe you need to have a, I don't know, PhD or whatever, right? And so again, this NFT as your credential or as your resume or as a data point of your like of your data, you know, whether that's where you're from or all these different things, I can go again and interact with an app and use that data as an interoperability standard. And again, this NFT is not going to accrue any value. It's meaningless or valueless to anyone else, but it is valuable to me because it gives me open access to certain things, right? So again, I want people to think of NFTs more as this like interoperable standard than it is like this speculative asset. And especially if you talk to people outside of the Web3 world, like they're not getting that. They think it's just a bunch of images and people like throwing around hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not the unlock here of NFTs. And so I just want you to think about your own business or the next thing you might do, especially as creators. This is so useful to understand your audience and to be able to do specific or certain things for your audience. And so just remember that a lot of NFTs are not going to have value, and that is okay, but they are going to enable certain things in the internet. And that to me is really, really cool. And that's why I'm so bullish on NFTs. I could give two shits about almost every NFT out there today. This is why I luckily did not buy the top for any NFTs. Jay cannot say the same. He's got bags underwater and I feel bad. I wish I told you this lesson 7 months ago, but I actually didn't even know this lesson.
You probably did. You probably did.
But actually, no, because the next point in our macro trends, what you're going to bring up is the reason why we've came across this is I think before, and I'll let you dive into it, Jay, but before this bear market where everything plummeted to zero and there's not a lot of volume anymore, like everything looked like it was working. And now that these sort of tides kind of gone out, we can see what is actually working and what's not, and where's the use cases here. And that's really what I think is happening, and what Web3 Academy is really trying to create a lot of content about now. You're going to see a big change in our content, is really just trying to dig into the things that are actually working and not. Because I think what we saw in 2020, 2021, most of that is shit. Most of that is not going to continue forward. And so we need to actually forget what just happened these last 2 years and start from scratch and like move forward. I actually tweeted about that the other day, but take it away on your next trend you're seeing, Jay.
Yeah, I think that just like the start of any new technology, the initial ways that we play with and use that technology it's nascent. It's the way an infant plays with something, not to say that we're all infants, but you know what I mean, right? We don't know what we're using. We don't know what we're doing with it. So, and often the initial use cases are speculative and focused on financial gain because, like it or not, money matters. And that's what drives traffic. And that's what drives media attention. You know, it's obviously if you post a story about a Bored Ape worth $1 million, you're going to get clicks on that. What? A JPEG is worth $1 million. So I get why we've gone that way, but I totally agree that this first macro trend of really this focus on interoperability standards, if you are out there and you're a builder, you need to be using that language, interoperability, more. I find I'm trying to bring it more into my vocabulary, trying to understand what are the interoperability standards. The last 3 guests we have had on the podcast are all building businesses, but also spoke about a standard that they are building as well with that. We had Michael Sanders on from Horizon Gaming. He talked about how they co-authored the ERC 1155 standard. Then we had Kyle Tutt from Pinata, and he talked about how they are writing standards for IPFS and NFT metadata storage. And then we actually just recorded this the other day. This isn't even out yet. It's coming out next week, as we had Andrew Saunders from Arbitrum. And obviously Arbitrum is building a layer 2, a full standard upon which to build. It's amazing that focus on building. And if you take that as your focus, that will lead you to greater things, because you become the layer that connects everything, and you will tap into those layers. As you said, Kai, in our current world, I think that people don't quite grasp what it's going to be like when there's 1 billion wallets and we connect through this way. It's hard to grasp what that, it's going to be incredible. Right now, the way we connect through email and through like disconnected social, our online experience is brutal. We don't quite, it's hard to describe what that's like because it's just normal for us. But yeah, we got a long way to go, and it's really exciting to think about. Okay, let me jump into our next macro trend that we're seeing. Hype is being replaced by real business. And I got a couple takes on this. One, we had a problem where hype has been the product so far in the space. And what happens when hype is the product? Your consumer expects hype forever. Right. And that is not sustainable. So if you are out there, right? What's that?
It's like a drug.
Exactly. And it's a dopamine hit.
Right.
And it's not a sustainable business model. Hype should never be the product. It should be a tool or a tactic. But right now, for a lot of these projects, up until hype has been the product. So now what we're seeing is, as the speculation gets washed out, and I think we talked about a few weeks ago, OpenSea was down, 98% NFT trading from a year ago. As the traders have left and all the speculation is left, who's left? Real builders. And what do real builders focus on? They focus on building products, not building hype. And when you build products, you build real utility. But here's the challenge. Hype can be built fast, right? You know, think about what was that documentary on Netflix about that?
The Fire Festival?
Fire
Fire
Festival.
Festival. No
Exactly.
way. Yeah.
Like perfect example, right? Like all they had to do, they had no product. Their product was
Mm.
shit, but they were amazing at creating hype. And so they got a bunch of sales because all you have to do is get a bunch of influencers to post
So Ja
something.
Rule.
It's so, yeah, it's easier to create hype than it is real product. And so I think the other thing that people are saying is right now, because there's real building happening, real building takes longer and it takes more patience. And so there's also this interesting trend, and Kyle, you and I have talked about this a little bit, of because there was so much hype, you've got a bunch of communities that are kind of overreacting and yelling and being upset in Discord about like, why is my token not going up? Or why am I not getting another airdrop? Well, because you sold them hype. You didn't sell them utility. And so I think that's the other trend that I'm seeing.
One of the greatest lessons I ever learned from an entrepreneur, old business partner / friend of mine. He said, under promise and over deliver. That's like the key thing in business. And fuck, Web3 did not do that over the last 2 years. They did the complete opposite.
Exactly.
But all right, well, let's talk about some hype, because this is kind of hype, isn't it? Apple.
This is hype.
Great take, by the way. I think the big takeaway for me is like Web3 right now, we're trying to build the underlying infrastructure of the internet. That is not hype worthy. That is not actually that cool. You know what I mean? Like there are a bunch of amazing unlocks from it, but like people need to understand that what we're really trying to build here is just a new way of using the internet. And there's a lot of standards we have to build in order for that to work. And that's the stuff that we're building here. Like these Arbitrum and all these different things, people are getting all excited about protocols. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of weird. Like you're never going to hear these terms in 5 years from now. So like the fact that everyone's so tribal and all this stuff, it's like, yo, everyone just chill out. You're all tribal because of the speculative aspect of this. We're just trying to build some good protocol layers so that, you know, we can actually build good businesses on top of those. And that's going to take a lot of time. But in the meantime, Apple is going to allow developers to sell NFTs in games and apps. Now, this is actually a pretty big deal. So previous to this was just announced, I think last week. But previous to this, you were not allowed to put NFTs in your apps. So OpenSea, if you've ever downloaded that app through the App Store anyway, I'm not sure about Google Play, but they don't allow you to like buy, sell, and trade on there. You can only just like view, that's it. So kind of a useless app. Axie Infinity, the biggest game, Web3 game of the last 2 years, they had to do this all outside of the App Store because they just couldn't, because they have NFTs in their game. And obviously anyone who uses Apple, which is, I think we have a graph up here. I don't know, what are we at? Like 1 billion users or something like that on Apple. If you want to slide over. Yeah, 1 billion users in 2020. So I don't know, it's probably up by now, but 1 billion people are using these phones and they can't actually interact with NFTs via anything in the App Store. So now it is allowed. And so
in the App Store, Kai, let me just give you one more stat here.
Yeah.
85 billion in sales in 2021.
Wow. How many apps? 3.4 million apps are in the App Store. A million of those are, almost 1 million of those are games. Wow, that's huge. And so this is a huge step in the right direction. Now, the issue here that's been brought up, and there's a lot of controversy about this on Twitter and probably elsewhere, but Apple wants all NFT sales to happen via in-app purchases. So when you sign up for a subscription in the App Store, if it's done through in-app, it just auto does it, I think, through Apple ID or Apple Wallet or whatever it is. Apple Pay, that's it. Yeah. And what Apple does is they take 30% of that fee. So they take a lot from the business. Now, the reason that they do this, one, there's 1 billion people in their App Store. So like, if you want to get your app in front of a lot of people, obviously that's a massive value. So, okay. And then also they have a lot of tools for developers to build. And so there's a lot of benefit to the business to put it on Apple. Just like, I don't know, if you're putting something on Amazon, right? You're going to do a lot better if it's on Amazon versus, I don't even know what number 2 is from Amazon, to be honest. So anyway, a lot of people are complaining about that. And that's really a big deal. But what Apple has done to sort of help with this is they have, for companies that are billing under $1 million, I think it's per year, they're only taking 15%. So, I mean, still super high compared to everything else, but is what it is. Either way, Web3 doesn't like this. We're used to like 2.5% or less, which, I mean, I agree with. But I think I'm less concerned on the fee for this. Like, it would be weird to, I don't even really know how it will work to like sell an NFT and you have to do it through your Apple Pay, which doesn't actually have a wallet. So like, I think we'd actually probably gonna have to build some new tech around this. I'm not even really sure. But to me, the problem is it's no longer really peer-to-peer, right? Like the whole point in NFTs is this peer-to-peer exchange. Well, if it's through the App Store and I have to use in-app purchases, well, that means I'm using a third party. I have to go through Apple. And so that is the thing I'm concerned about, less concerned about the 30% thing. And I'll talk about that more in just a second. I don't even know technically how that's going to work. I guess we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll hear more about this as some of the apps start to try to build and launch NFTs inside. Here's my takeaways though. One, I think the Apple Wallet is coming, right? And I mean Apple Wallet for Web3. If they're now enabling NFTs, they probably, assuming this goes well, if they want to better enable NFT use, well, they're going to need a wallet. And so what should they do? Probably just launch their own wallet. And then we can do in-app through their wallet, which again is not perfect for all those people who are like degens and whatever. Like, it's not perfect, but it's a step again in the right direction to get NFT games in an app store where there's a billion people. Holy shit, I'm all for that. I don't care what.
Like, is that quite possibly the largest onboard that could come? Like, we're talking about potentially getting,
so maybe Google's bigger, I'm not sure.
1 billion iPhone users could have access to wallets without knowing. They're not going to know that they're crypto wallets.
I mean, with the click of a button, Apple could just give everyone a wallet, and there's a billion people with a wallet. That would just be insanity.
Do it, Apple.
Do it. I almost said
please,
do it, Steve,
and make them Ethereum wallets. Put them on EVM, please. Layer 2, Arbitrum.
Whoa, someone's an ETH maxi. I thought that what you used to call me that. So, but anyway, the other, I guess, big takeaway here from all this is, look, I know the 30% thing sucks and people don't love that. But like, here's the thing I don't understand about Web3 and crypto. They want open and free marketplaces. We don't want regulators, right? We don't want rules. We don't want people to tell us what to do. We hate all that stuff. And then something comes in where someone builds an amazing product and they want to charge for that product. Maybe it's too much of a fee, and everyone cries and complains. And it's like, well, what do you want here? You want an open marketplace or not? Because if someone builds a fucking really good product, which Apple has done, they can charge whatever the hell they want. And the reason they can charge whatever the hell they want is because there's a billion fucking people using their phones that rely on the App Store. And so like, pay that 30%, because what's your other option, right? You don't have another option. I guess you can go to Google, but then you're missing out on a billion people. So it's like, you can either go and build your own store for apps that battles Apple, or like just go find a business model that works with that. And there are many businesses. I mean, there's 3.4 million apps. Right? So there are many businesses that have figured out how to do this. And ultimately, like, if we can make Web3 big enough, well, maybe we can tell Apple to go fuck off, right? Solana's working on that. They're building a phone. And so like, maybe we can, but for now, like, let's just deal with it, because that's how open marketplaces work, right? Yeah. If people are going to get wine and want the regulators come in, well, then why wouldn't they come do that with DeFi and Web3 and everything else too? So like, I don't know, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
100%. And really, this comes down to Apple has built an incredible product. They've built an incredible product. This isn't, I think that one of the things we get caught up on is, yes, one of the great unlocks, and there's many revolutions or evolutions that we're talking about making to Web2, such as take rate, as you identified. And OpenSea was the first to do that. OpenSea's take rate is 2.5%. It was like, wow, here's a marketplace with a way lower take rate than YouTube, Facebook, and Apple. But OpenSea's new. And yes, their product's good, but it's nowhere near what Apple's product is. So we need to recognize that these older companies that have incredible products and have these large marketplaces, they're going to charge more for that. And I think that's just natural. I think, again, the biggest thing to me here is this wallet, as you identified. If I don't care what their take rate is, so long as, and I don't care if they force it to be an app, so long as this onboards people onto crypto, Web3, blockchain wallets, whatever you want to call them, that is what matters. And it gets people purchasing NFTs without knowing they're purchasing NFTs. Thank you. Like,
And by the way, of course, we don't love the 30%. Like, yes, I get it. That sucks.
yeah,
If you're building a business, you're going to complain. I would too. Okay. We have many products that we use in our businesses that they take probably too much, but it is what it is. And you just have to go with it because that's how business works, right? It's just a value exchange. And eventually, I think we will disrupt Apple and we will make this better. That's how tech typically works, but it's going to take some time. And for now, let's be happy that our tech is getting implemented into Apple. It's a big step
yeah.
forward. And then
And
we'll take a moment.
I was just gonna say, let's be real. This is the way business works. You start if your business is going to be an app, okay, you start your app and you start by going through Apple because that's where 1 billion users are, and you figure out how to market through the App Store and you use that. If your app grows to a certain size, you will figure out other ways to make revenue outside of the App Store. I guarantee it, right? Yeah. But you can't go make an app in the beginning. It would be like going and trying to create an Airbnb property, but not using Airbnb. How are you going to get anybody to rent your place? Nobody's searching anywhere else, right? Like, you need to go where the customers are. But then over time, yes, there are other ways to get around it. You figure out other ways to develop revenue streams, so you gotta take the easy onboarding ramp. I'm stoked about it, Kai. I'm happy.
Nice. I actually wasn't sure that you're going to agree with my take on that, to be completely honest. But what's next in the news, Jay?
Next up, TokenProof has announced that they are partnering with Flow Blockchain. Very exciting news. Shout out to TokenProof, which is one of the leading token gating platforms. When I was at NFT NYC earlier this year, I used TokenProof to get into the Moonbirds party. I used TokenProof to get into the Hug party. I used TokenProof to get into most events. Ironically, I did not use TokenProof to get into NFT NYC. I didn't use any. The big joke at NFT NYC was that the actual conference was not Web3 at all, and there was no token gating. And yeah, that was a joke, but the actual outside events were all using Web3. What's interesting about this, a few things I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about Flow. Shout out to Flow. So Flow is not the darling blockchain, right? It's not ETH, it's not getting the media attention, but we just keep hearing about them. First, Flow partnered with Ticketmaster, which nothing's really come out of that yet, but you can believe that Flow and Ticketmaster are building. Like, hell yeah, get me NFT tickets. Flow partnered with the NFL, Flow partnered with the NBA. So lots of Flow is also partnered with one of the largest toy companies that's trying to build digital toys, Cryptoys, I believe it's called. So a lot of Flow is doing the corporate stuff. And when you do the corporate stuff, that building takes longer. So we're not necessarily hearing a lot about it, but I got a lot of respect for Flow and Dapper Labs and everything that they are building. I think it's very exciting to see a blockchain like that succeed. That's clearly they're focused on corporate relationships and corporate partnerships, not on the degen crowd. Not that we're all
in the decentralization, all that kind of stuff. Like, look, not every blockchain needs to be maximally decentralized. Flow isn't trying to create the thing that we put like sovereign money on and like, fight against the nations, et cetera, like Bitcoin's trying to do, and maybe Ethereum in terms of like the financial system. Like, Flow is just trying to onboard people and do some cool stuff with like fans of NBA and with toys and things like that. Like, they're not trying to go up against the big nations. So they don't need this like crazy decentralized thing. They're just trying to unlock some features of Web3, and they're doing a hell of a good job at it. So like, mad respect to them, to be completely honest. I actually have one more point I want to make from the last conversation. I'm just going to say it real quick, Jay, which is on this Apple side of things. The one piece that I forgot to mention was, here's the other beautiful thing about this, is we just talked about how NFTs, we think valueless NFTs are going to be the main way that we use NFTs. Well, what a perfect now onboarding opportunity into the App Store, because you can now use NFTs like Lens Protocol that don't have value, right? Or like our data and privacy and all these kind of things that we're going to do, and credentials and stuff. Sure, I'll pay Apple 30% of zero, right? I'm sure anyone will. It's nothing. So this allows us to actually use all those inside the App Store. And so that is a massive unlock as well that I forgot to connect those dots. But anyway, continue on to TokenProof.
So let's, and now I want to talk about that quickly, because this is a great point here. So if you are starting a business, and I've said this for a while, I've always said the first step in anybody's entry into Web3 should be a free token, whether it's fungible or non-fungible, whatever, a free token. So there you go. Use the App Store, get a free token into the hands of your customers. You're not going to have to pay 30% for it, but now they got a free token, and a way you can build upon that, the interoperable way you can build upon that is endless.
I know P.
Okay.
All right.
Back to TokenProof. We're jumping around today. We're excited today. I love it. I like it when we get fired up. Okay. So I just want to talk about two examples of token gating. And there is going to be, I truly believe that token gating is going to be like a term that is going to go mainstream in the long term. I almost feel like it already is on the way there, because this is one of the big ways that we can, as we said, we can be interoperable with our consumers by identifying their tokens and then giving them access to things based upon the tokens they have. And here's two quick examples. First is a book called Bored and Dangerous. So this is just a great Web3 story. Jenkins the Valet is a bored ape. And so whoever owns this bored ape has branded and given this bored ape a full life, a full personality. His name is Jenkins the Valet. Jenkins is, I think he's in a Coinbase movie. He's doing a few things, but Jenkins wrote a book recently, and he wrote this book with Neil Strauss. Those of you who don't know Neil Strauss, very famous, world-renowned fiction author. And so they wrote this book. They sold an NFT for access to this book about 3 or 4 months ago. And then now you can get access to this book through TokenProof by proving that you have the token gives you access to a book. So here is token gating for book content. Very, very interesting, a great way. And you can think about, the potential use cases of that, because, okay, if the only way to access a digital book is through, right now, it's pretty easy for us to download a digital book and then share it with each other, right? But if it's all through NFTs, then it's much harder for us to share it, because if you don't have the NFT, then even if you could previously access it, but you sell the NFT and then you go back to the book, it's going to require you to authenticate that NFT again, which you no longer have in your wallet. So you can no longer access the book. So really simple, but powerful use case and unlock.
100%.
I think I should give this one a shout out. TokenProof is also sponsored with NASCAR. I'm not a massive NASCAR fan by any means. I think I've literally never watched NASCAR, but I am aware that NASCAR is one of the largest entertainment properties in America. And last weekend at Texas Motor Speedway, if you had a race day NFT, you could use TokenProof to access exclusive areas and exclusive events.
Wow, impressive. Go NASCAR. I would have thought F1 would have been the first to get into this, right? They're in Netflix, and they're kind of like going mainstream and stuff. But NASCAR jumping ahead of F1 and going right to Web3. Did they even get it to Web2, NASCAR?
I don't know. I think they're mostly into beer drinking and eating hot dogs. But
yeah, sounds great. I'm down.
Okay, what do we got up next here, Kai?
Ooh, Coinbase. So we actually used to, we haven't talked about Coinbase in a while. They haven't been in the news. No. Well, I guess we talked about Brian Armstrong quite a bit, but Coinbase NFT marketplace. We covered this a lot when it came out. I actually thought they were going to do amazing, because I see Coinbase as sort of this like onboarding, this amazing onboarding ramp and this great UX, and they're trying to like control the UX across Web3, almost like the Web3 version of Apple. But anyway, they launched their NFT marketplace. Didn't go so hot. What are they up to now, Jay? They're making a big transition.
Yeah, so they've decided to transition their NFT marketplace to be an aggregator. So rather than just having their their own sort of separate marketplace where you have to list and buy on their marketplace, they're now an aggregator, which is a big trend that we're seeing in the NFT space. Is what do people want when they're looking to buy and sell something? They want the best price, right?
Mm.
And they want access to the most people, right? So now, if you are looking to buy an NFT and you go to Coinbase, you will see they're aggregating all the NFT. They're not doing all of them, actually. I shouldn't say they're doing all. They have picked a select few, but all like it's like 90% of the marketplaces or the volume of marketplaces. And you can go and you can see the best price. We've seen NFT aggregator marketplaces like Gem pop up and do quite well. So it's not a surprise that this is happening. But again, Kai, you just talked about interoperability. This wouldn't have been possible in Web 2.
Well, probably it could be, but it would be a bitch. You'd have to like actually go and talk with the company and like
you'd have
really
to do partnerships.
Exactly.
Because it's all walled gardens, right? Like you'd have to imagine somebody being like, oh, I'm going to pull in, I'm going to pull in the apps from the App Store and I'm going to pull in the apps from Google Play and make a aggregated app marketplace. Like, no, it doesn't exist, right?
I don't think so. But I think this is big. I mean, again, Coinbase is all about the UX, right? You got to like, if you're in Web3, you got to remember most people are not Web3 and most people don't even know what Web3 is. Most people are not going to even figure out how to use it. But they will be able to figure out how to use Coinbase, right? I mean, most people have. I think is it 100 million people using Coinbase now? Something like that.
Yeah, something maybe like more. That. Yeah. I think it's more.
And their crypto's on there. And so now you can use that and move into the NFTs and do other things. And they have the Coinbase wallet and you can pay employees and do invoicing with Coinbase. So like they're trying to do a lot and really it controls the whole UX by putting all of the protocols and things on the like underlying layer, right? And so we don't have to think about using Uniswap and LooksRare and all these things. We can just go to the beautiful UX of Coinbase. So I'm all for this. I love it. And again, interoperability is what enables it. So that is super cool.
103 million verified users on Coinbase.
That what it is?
That's from their website. So who knows how up to date that is. That might be from working in the website world. Sometimes they're 6 months old in terms of their data.
Yeah, right.
I think for sure at least 100 million. Okay, I just want to continue down this thread of NFT marketplaces because I think this is a big area of success that is going to come is from NFT marketplaces, but it's also a tool in the toolbox of Web3, which really you and I talk about this all the time. If you are a business or a creator, you need to think about Web3 as a tool, right? Unless you're going to go build a Web3 native business and you actually want to build the infrastructure there. But if you're just using it, it's a tool. And marketplaces are a tool. And I'll tell you why. And here's a great example is this past week, Truth Labs, which is the team behind Goblin Town and about 5 to 10 other large NFT projects, launched their own marketplace. So this is a NFT project that said, hey, now you can come buy our NFTs on our marketplace. Kai, who else has done this? There's other projects that have done
Larva
this.
Labs did this with, I think CryptoPunks and Meebits. I'm pretty sure they had their own marketplace. Back then, I never really understood why they did it, but now I get it.
Yeah. So what is happening is in case, let me just tell you a bit about this one. In Truth's case, what they did that was really smart is on their marketplace, the royalty is 5%, which is lower than the royalty that they charge on other marketplaces. So they dropped their creator royalty on their own marketplace. And why do they do that? Well, because if they're selling something on another marketplace, they have to pay a fee to that marketplace. Coinbase has a 2.5% fee. So let's say their royalty is 7.5%. Well, they might as well drop their royalty by 2.5%. They actually make the same amount of money, but now it's in their ecosystem. And I think this is what we're going to see happen because it kind of connects to this whole NFT royalty debate is, okay, if NFT royalties, let's assume that they're not enforceable on chain in the future, although I do think that devs might figure that out. But let's say they're not enforceable on chain. Then what needs to happen is two things. You either give up on royalties, as Kai, you've presented before, and I know you're talking lots about, is you just don't rely on them, and it's okay. You make other business revenue streams, or you do continue to go with royalties, but you make value so that people want to pay your royalties. Well, one of the ways you can make value is by creating a great marketplace experience. You can make a marketplace that's easy to use, where you can have a lower fee to your customers so they can make more money off of their trading or their buying or their selling. And also you can just imagine your marketplace could be part of your onboarding. It could create the experience. Within your marketplace, there could be access to benefits. There could be access to perks. You could have cool galleries where people can show off. There's so much you can do by creating this UI and create utility and value for your customers.
That's a good point, because when you first brought this up and you're like, well, Goblin Town is basically rugging, let's say, Coinbase or OpenSea by like lowering the royalties. I was going to say, well, then you know what OpenSea is going to do? Just make it zero royalty fees for any Goblin Town NFT. Like they don't give a shit, right? So it's like they're kind of forcing the bigger players to now undercut them even more, and it's going to be a race to the bottom, which is where I think this goes with royalties regardless, to be completely honest. Again, this is just kind of how business works. Except for, like you said, if you bring in more value and you create a better experience, then I can see that working. Like if they really build something cool here in this Goblin Town thing, then people just want to use it because it just makes their life better or their experience better. They'll probably pay that extra X%, whatever that ends up being. But yeah, that's a great point, actually.
And I think what you're going to see from the tech side, I think a lot of people sitting there might say, okay, sure, great, thanks, Jay and Kyle, but like, I'm not a tech founder. How the heck am I going to go build a marketplace? Well, there's another interoperability standard or a template. I think that in the next few years, there's going to be a WordPress of marketplaces where you can go in and it's like simple template based and anybody can build their own marketplace.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
All right, next up, tool of the month time, Kai.
Yeah, before we get into our quick hits of news, where we're just going to say a bunch of different news and we're going to explain it in 60 seconds or less, so it'll be nice and fast. We'll do a quick tool of the month. We actually had the community vote this time. We're not deciding the tool of the month anymore, and we're going to do this with all of them. So make sure you're following us on Web3 Academy. I think it's Web3 Academy _ on Twitter. So you can help us choose the tools of the month, the DAOs of the month, etc. We had the communities voting up on this one. What were the options, Jay?
The options were Radical, Metropolis, Wonderverse, and Coop. And the winner was Coop by a close margin.
Right. Jay, I see you voted for Wonderverse though. Look at that.
Hey, don't say that. I like Coop. Don't tell them that's supposed to be off chain. Okay,
nice.
Coop.
So tell me, what is Coop? Give me a rundown of Coop. The runnings here were quite close. It's 47% Coop, and what was the other one? 43%.
43% Wonderverse.
Yeah, but give us the
both
rundown.
Great tools. And if you want to learn anything about all these tools, you can check our Twitter. We got a little thread about each one. Coop, which shout out, raised about, I think they raised $5 million a couple weeks ago. They are building a new platform for communities in Web3. And they have a fantastic website, so you got to check out their website. Very well made. Whoever made this, well done. But basically, the idea is behind Coop is that you can train your communities into contributors, which is what we talk about so much with Web3, is the unlock. And so the way that they're doing that is through governance. They're trying to help people create better engagement around governance and voting and proposals. So if you're in a community, voter apathy is a big issue for a lot of Web3 communities. And so they are building this platform where it's more fun to vote. It's easier to vote. You can understand what you're voting on. So they're focused on that. They're also focused on quests. Kai, we talk a lot about quests and how you can bring somebody on board to your community and then have them do different things, such as bounties, or have them participate in different ways. And it's really fun for the customer, but it's also something that gets them engaged in part of the onboarding experience. And because of wallets, you can actually see that they've taken these steps and you can verify it. which wasn't really possible in Web 2. And then they're also enabling memberships, which I'm not going to dive into the membership thing because I don't fully understand how they are doing this on chain. Because one thing, Kai, that you and I talk a lot about is memberships is such a big model in Web 2. And how do we transition that model to Web 3 when you need to do recurring revenue and a subscription model? So I'm not sure if their membership version is recurring. It's probably not. It's probably one time. Does it say that?
It doesn't say, but I don't think it is. But holy, do I have a banger of an article. It's actually like 3, maybe 4 articles coming out all about this kind of stuff. It's going to be a deep dive, the deepest of the dives. Anyway, finish up.
Deepest of the dive. Okay, so yes, shout out Coop. Keep building. You guys are doing awesome. If anybody from the Coop team is listening to this, would love to chat with you guys. Would love to have you guys on the show. You guys are doing amazing work. Keep it up.
And congrats on the big win. And thank you to the communities for voting and choosing Coop. We're going to keep doing this, so make sure to keep following along on Twitter to see these polls. All right, let's get into some quick hits news for you guys. The first top of the show, we kind of dive deep into stuff. Now we're just going to brush the surface of some cool things happening around Web3. I'm going to start it off. So what I'm going to do is just read out a title, and then Jay's going to read out a title, and so on and so forth. And the other person's just going to comment our quick thoughts on it. We've got only 60 seconds. So Jay, I'm going to start it off for you. Borrowing $1.3 million using a mutant ape NFT, go.
Okay, so let's talk first about this is a classic media headline that I just talked about, right? You throw over $1 million ape and NFT into a headline right now, you're going to get a lot of attention. But this is also a very interesting unlock of Web3, is this opportunity to leverage your collateral. Apes are worth a lot of money. Now, how does somebody borrow $1.3 million on apes? Well, they have, what are they called? They're called mega apes or something like that. Because a mutant ape recently sold for over $1 million. Yeah, they're called, mega mutants. So somebody leveraged $1.3 million. And they did that on Arcade. There's also BendDAO, which is a very interesting NFT lending platform. So there's a lot happening in this space. Is it good or is it bad? Ooh, be careful, not financial advice.
Done.
Okay, next up, Kai. Chipotle is proof of stake.
I love it. Look, I think it was Andrew Saunders who tweeted this out a couple weeks ago before the merge, and he goes, I can't believe there is not a fast food company that is taking advantage of this marketing opportunity of proof of stake, meaning STEAK, like the steak you eat. And finally, it took a little bit longer, I guess, but Andrew called this, and Chipotle has come out with something called proof of stake, where they're giving away they're celebrating the merge because it's a 99.95% less in energy. And so they're celebrating by giving 99.95% off the new garlic, whatever that is, steak. So a certain type of steak at Chipotle when you spend ETH. So legendary move, Chipotle. They always continue to have fun with this stuff. And someone needed to do this, but this was Andrew's idea. And maybe someone from Chipotle is following Andrew Saunders. So really the kudos goes to you, man. All right.
I love it.
Next up, Audius, Web3 music platform hits 7.5 million monthly users. Wow, that's impressive. Go.
Music is going to be one of the big industries, probably, I believe, an industry that will excel and benefit so much from Web3. So excited about everything that's happening. And Audius is basically the leader right now that is Spotify, but using tokens. So I use Audius. It's a great platform. There's not enough artists on it yet. Like, Taylor Swift isn't on it. Like the big artists aren't on it because
that's
of all
your
their
big artist. That's your
label agreements. No, it's definitely not my big artist, but hey, I'm going for the big ones for everybody else. But what's cool about Audius is if you make a playlist and your playlist is the top playlist, then you get tokens for the week. If you're an artist and you have the top song of the week, you get tokens. So it's all of this Web3 incentivization using tokens. Also, shout out, Audius you can log on by email or by MetaMask. Only 10% of their users have logged on by MetaMask. So that means that they are also a great onboard ramp. People don't even know that it's Web3 necessarily.
Done. What's next?
NASDAQ launching institutional crypto service.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just still a rumor. It's not like confirmed yet, I believe. But look, this one's an obvious. So NASDAQ is where you go to invest across the ETFs, or sorry, invest across the tech stocks. And also it is like an equities exchange, you could think of it in the crypto world. And what is going to get disrupted by crypto? These exchanges, of course. And so it only makes sense that they're going to move into custodying tokens, and probably there will be a near future where you can buy your equities via NASDAQ, right? Like we do, or you can also buy tokens, and maybe they compete with like a Uniswap or something in the future. I don't know. Sure. But like, I think they know that their business is going to get disrupted. And so they've got to come into the Web3 at some point and start, you know, holding or doing something with tokens. And it looks like they're going to start with custodying crypto services, or I don't know if that means just tokens, or they're going to do DeFi stuff. Like, we'll see how far they take it. But either way, it seems like an obvious transition to me.
We're going mainstream, people. We are going mainstream.
All right, the Haas brothers launched a personality test NFT. What's this?
Okay, this is going to be tough to explain in a minute, but this is a really great, interesting project. Haas brothers are two artists. They launched an NFT project. Here's how it works. You take a personality test, and this personality test, I heard this from Carly Riley from Overpriced JPEGs, who took the test. Apparently it's quite sexual, which is hilarious. And so she said it like made her a little bit uncomfortable, but you take this personality test, and what happens based upon how you score on the test, your NFT is generated as a multi-beast, it's called. And so, you know, we're all a little bit narcissistic, right? You know, who am I? What am I? We all love to think about ourselves like that. Well, this project spits out this NFT. The other really cool thing about this project is that they are using Remake, which is a platform that is focused on NFT licensing. And so they are trying to really focus. We talk a lot about IP and licensing of NFTs. They are trying to build that into the smart contract. I've gone over time, so I'm going to stop. But we're going to talk more about smart contracts and IP and NFT licensing and how that works for business models.
Jay doesn't know how to keep things short.
No. Okay, next up. OpenSea paid out a $100,000 reward. Go.
Yeah, so this is sweet. So basically for developers, engineers, if they find bugs and things in certain protocols will pay, I guess it's called bounties. And if you go and you, instead of hacking them, you tell them about it, kind of thing. So in some cases,
Nice.
if it's like really valuable, because I mean, what happens is sometimes they'll just hack it, take all the money, and then they'll go, you know what, I'll give you 95% back, but I want to keep 5%, but they're stealing like millions. So they can make a lot. But the other way you can do it is, instead of going through that and maybe going to jail, you can just go and tell them instead of hacking it, and these companies will pay you. And so OpenSea did it for something, and they paid $100,000. And so pretty cool. It's a great way to make a living. I mean, you can get $100,000 on just one tip, basically. Now, it probably takes a while to actually comb through all the code and to figure this stuff out. But sounds like a great little opportunity here. And mad respect to open protocols and allowing this kind of stuff. We like bounties.
I'd like $100,000, but I'm a non-tech, so
you can't find these. Yeah. All right. Last one of these. News from the Lensverse Cultivator DAO. What's this? Stani's
okay.
tweet.
So Stani, the founder of Aave and Lens, tweeted about Cultivator DAO. And what I love about this is Lens is focused from the ground up on creating an entire new Web3 social stack. And part of that is establishing principles and guidelines that we live by. It's not so much interoperable standards in the sense of like tech standards. It's more standards in the sense of like ethical standards. And they've launched Cultivator DAO, which is essentially going to be focused on ensuring that as the Web3 stack is developed, because Lens is this entire ecosystem that's going to have developers involved on so many different layers, Web Web3 social, I mean, social in general has so many layers. You have the posting and the collecting layer of the actual post. You have the layer of like cultivating and curating the content. So what algorithm decides what content you will see. And so what they've done is they've created Cultivator DAO as a way to ensure that as this Web3 social stack is developed, it focuses on trust and safety and does it in the right way.
I'm telling you, if you want to know about Web3, just follow Lens. These guys are crushing it. Follow Stoney. This guy's a stud. But Lens is doing just so many cool things. All right, that's a wrap of the news, guys. We just have one final take that we are going to cover, and that's actually from our poll of last week. Do you want to talk us through the beginning of this, Jay?
Yeah, so we started last week putting up polls. This was our poll of last week. Watch out on our Twitter for another poll this week. Last week's poll was, would you put your personal interests / hobbies like meditation, investing, or running, for example, would you put those on chain tied to your wallet address? The purpose of this would be to connect with other like-minded individuals, or would you have privacy concerns? And so very interesting poll, 40 and very even split down the middle, very polarizing. 43% said yes, they would do it. 45% said no, they have privacy concerns, and 11% said, I don't know, not sure. So yeah, I think there's a very, and this is the questions that we're gonna have to answer. Kai, you said at the beginning of the show, one of the things we're most excited about for Web3 is identity management. And this connects to identity. And there's two sides to this. In one way, I can see the incredible use cases for sharing personal data about yourself on chain, as that will lead to you being able to connect with more like-minded individuals and you being able to experience the metaverse and the web in a more personalized way. However, there is also privacy concerns around that. Kai, what's your take on this?
My take is that 45.7% of voters are liars because they already all do it. If you use Twitter, you are giving your personal interests to the centralized companies. If you use Google, if you use Facebook, we sold our soul to the centralized lords many years ago. So, I mean, the fact that you interacted with that poll right there, you already did it. But anyway, I think my other take, I'm kidding, you're not all liars, but we're kind of forced to do it in the Web2 world. I think where this goes is, just because it's on chain doesn't mean that anyone can just go and look up your stuff and see that you like to meditate or whatever. Zero knowledge proofs are a massive unlock, and we've talked about them before. They're going to allow you to put stuff on chain and have, you know, things like your data and stuff and your interest in things to get you into, I don't know, communities and whatever, which we're all going to love, because sharing data makes your experience on the internet actually much better. Try to delete all your cookies right now and then go use Google Chrome. See how much fun you have trying to get into all your sites. It's terrible. So like sharing your data is actually like, it's, I don't want to say it's great, but it makes your life a lot easier, to be completely honest. But what's cool about Web3 is with blockchain, with zero knowledge proofs, we're going to be able to actually keep that stuff private and not actually be able to, like, people won't be able to tie that to who you are and your name. They will be, you'll be able to get that data without knowing who you actually are and what your wallet is. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. Or there's going to be other things that are still Web3 that are not necessarily on chain either. And that's like Disco. Disco does this. Evan talks about this a lot. We've had her on the podcast, and she talks about how you're going to have all this kind of data stuff, and you can pull it from different blockchains. You can pull it from other data points that are not on chain, and you can actually have your data stored off chain, but use that data to interact with things on chain. And so that to me is super fascinating. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, I think that people don't realize how important it is to share data. That's how you connect with like-minded communities. That's how you get into, I don't know, find all the things that you like, being kind of just drawn to you on the internet, which is a great experience of the internet. And that all comes through your data. So I get the whole, like, we got to hide data and we can't give that data to these big centralized companies. But I think sharing your data is actually very important. It's how you find community. So I don't know, I would probably do it.
Polarizing topic. Very interesting. Keep an eye out. We'll have another poll coming up later this week. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening in.
What a
great
episode,
episode, Kai.
That was fun. That was fun.
It was
Hopefully you
lots of
guys
fun.
liked it. Let us know. We're trying to change up the way that we do our episodes. We're trying to make these roll-ups more informative, but also more fun, trying to make sure they're not too long, but would love to hear your guys' thoughts. So either if you're watching on YouTube, comment there, or hit us up on Twitter and let us know your thoughts. But thank you all for listening so much. I don't know how to end a podcast without it being awkward. So goodbye.
It's like saying goodbye. It's always so awkward. I go in for the hug. I like, high five.
Shake the hand
and then you're like still hanging out and you're like, should we hug again?
And the people that are listening to this podcast, and hopefully you're still listening, they're like cooking or something or driving, so they can't even click stop right now. It's just
yeah,
they
they're
have
like,
to keep
stop
listening.
talking. What about if we just end with like, love is such an important thing in life. I believe so much in spreading love. What if we just end with like saying, I love you, man. And we whether we say it to each other or whether we say it to the group, I just love ending with like an I love you.
I love you, man. Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.